Alright guys, so this is an introduction to the primitives of 3D. This is supposedly universal to different 3D modeling apps and software. Um, However, I'm using Blender simply because that is my go-to, and that is what I'm most familiar with. But these, most of these should be available on Maya. 3ds Max I've never used, but I'm guessing it has a few, Cinema 4D and such. Before we dig into these, I want to discuss briefly this infinite space that we're seeing out in the distance, right? So you see this grid. I mean, it spreads infinitely. This is one of the things that I've always been fascinated with when I first started in 3D modeling, is you get to enter a world where you get you get infinite space to generate whatever you want to build, and it's a whole world where you can just create whatever your mind can fathom. It's that moment in the Matrix where Neo calls up the forgetting the name, the weapons room, and the columns and columns of walls of guns would appear before him, and he could grab whatever he wanted. It's that infinite generation creation space. So anyway, for primitives, we have our basic cube here. If I tab into edit mode, you'll see that this has a six-sided cube, right? The standard box. It's very low geometry. I'll go ahead and enable statistics so we can see what kind of polygons, triangles were here. So 12 triangles on that one. This is your standard UV sphere. This is the most common sphere you're going to use. And this comes as it is. You can kind of see it is shaped in such a way that would make it kind of challenging if you want to do something like UV interwrap it. But this is generally what you'd use for something like making a globe. You see it has a lot more triangles here than this one, which is probably why this one is used for so many different things. This is the icosphere. It's a little bit less common to see, although if you're a geometry fanatic like I am, you're probably going to find many ways to utilize this. And by the way, you'll notice that all of these are equally spread across the X, or Blender is Z up, but usually it'd be the X and Z space. In this case, where it's X and Y space, but imagine an XY timeline in math. These are spread out in such a way. We'll look over that in the transform in a second. The next one is a cylinder. This is going to be for things like pipes and a whole lot of different things. The cone. I'll be honest, I don't use this very much. I typically probably start with something else and then work from there, but I guess you could bevel this top if you wanted to do something like that. Or I'll make triangles with this, but I'll start it with a lower. I'll start it with less vertices. And so you see, there we go. You can adjust the vertices. The last but not least is our torus, for things like a donut, things like a wheel, although I don't know if I'd use this screen wheel. If you wanted to make this smoother, there's a whole lot of inner tubes. Brings you back to memories of floating down the river in inner tubes. Anyway, so as you can see, this is an object, so I can hit G to move it. move it around. I usually lock it to the 3 axes. This is currently at the 0, 0, 0 location, and it has 0 rotation on it, and the scale's all set to 1. Same with all of these, although you'll notice on the Y it is slightly different. And you'll begin to notice there's a pattern here with the Y. And as you can see, that's obviously because this is in the Y direction. And then the last thing I want to notice here, each of these objects have this little dot in the middle. I'll go ahead and show all of them. This in Blender is called an origin point. In Unity, it's called a pivot point. I don't remember what it's called in Maya, Autodesk Maya, but they have one too. In Blender, you can move these pretty easily. If I can click here, I can set my origin to that 3D cursor. But you don't have a 3D cursor in many other apps. Set that back to normal. And so in Unity, you're struggling if you don't have that already set in the right place. But this is going to be, it's going to move. Let me see if I can show my gizmo. So the gizmo is going to show up where that thing is going to move from. At that. So the gizmo is going to start at that center dot, the center origin, or I like to use the word pivot point. So there we have it. We talked about transform, rotate. You can rotate any object in any axis from any position, and this is where it gets really cool, right? You can do lots of animations when you're moving things around in 3D space, and you can tell those things to rotate at a spot. And obviously, there's a lot of potential. So that's basically it for this video. I wanted to make this short and sweet. Those are primitives.